There's been a new shot in the Charlotte vs Tiffany Stratton war. Chris Jericho considering going back to WWE. My review of Monday Night Raw. And more. I'm Ollie Davis, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
We've had John Cena win the Elimination Chamber and turn heel to face Cody Rhodes in the main event of WrestleMania. We've had CM Punk, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins fight over who Paul Heyman wants as their boyfriend. And legendary luchador will now face legendary luchador as Rey Mysterio is taking on El Grande Americano. But after last Friday's segment on SmackDown, the best-built WrestleMania match is Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton, because they think they actually hate each other. Several weeks ago, it was speculated that Charlotte went off script in a promo with Stratton, and Fightful reported that some backstage felt it made Tiffany look bad. So maybe with that in mind, when Charlotte reportedly went off script again on last Friday's episode, Tiffany had some replies locked and loaded already in the chamber, referencing Flair's recent divorce from WWE star Andrade with the line, "When it's all said and done, you're going to be just like you are outside of the ring, alone." What is that record? Like 0-3? The segment became increasingly messy as Charlotte tried to talk over Tiffany and the Chicago crowd to get her own shot in. WrestleVotes, Fightful, PW Insider and the Wrestling Observer have all reported it all went off script. The backstage officials see neither in the right, but that Flair is taking most of the heat. To close the segment, feeling more like a Married at First Sight Australia dinner party than Friday Night SmackDown, Charlotte told Tiffany, "You can go ahead and have the last word," before then getting the last word, saying as Stratton walked off, "Hey Tiffany, is that why Kaiser's in my DMs?" This is a reference to Tiffany's real-life boyfriend, Ludwig Kaiser, who has now himself responded on Twitter, posting a clip of Shawn Michaels telling the British Bulldog's wife back in 1996, "Please do not flatter yourself." And then, in one of the Netflix ADBREAK interview segments on last night's Raw, Kaiser teased how everyone wanted him to address the elephant in the room after last week, to then talk about how he hasn't got a match at WrestleMania. Oh, we know what you're doing, Kaiser. But soon, Charlotte might not be the only attention-grabbing veteran blonde in WWE, as AEW star Chris Jericho has said he would consider going back to the company. In the past, Jericho has explicitly said he wouldn't go back. As recently as 2023, he told the Daily Star, "I have zero interest in ever going back to WWE." But that was before Vince McMahon was fully forced out of the company at the start of 2024. And, probably more crucially for Jericho, before it became cool again. A video clip has surfaced of Jericho at the Horror Rock and Wrestle Fest last month in the UK, where he said, "Of course I would consider going back to WWE. I would consider not going back there too. It just depends on what the situation is and what's kind of going on with me. But we'll see." Never say, it's not even never say never, it's consider all your options and choose wisely. This is a definite switch from having zero interest 2 years ago. Jericho lost his Ring of Honor World title to Bandido at Sunday's AEW Dynasty event, which I'm told is currently about halfway through the card and will be finishing sometime Friday afternoon. It's a long show. Now it's time for my review of Monday Netflix Raw in about 5 minutes. With WrestleMania just 12 days away, WWE had to start making those matches they've been teasing for weeks official for the 2-night card. But not with really cool angles. Really cool angles are for suckers. They instead did it with rather pedestrian match announcements. Yeah, rather pedestrian match announcements, that's where it's at. Rey Mysterio got a WrestleMania match against El Grande Americano by just asking Adam Pearce for it in a 30-second backstage segment. The 4-way Intercontinental Championship match of Bron Breakker defending against Penta, Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor was made official in a tweet earlier in the day. And after over a month of asking how will Rhea Ripley find her way into the Women's Championship match at WrestleMania, Adam Pearce answered with, "I'm just going to say she's in it now." This was Raw's opening segment. Pearce invited Io Sky, Bianca Belair and, partying like it's 2023, introducing Rhea as representing Judgment Day to the ring. He called them all unprofessional for combusting last week in a match he booked that was obviously combustible. And then he just added that Ripley is officially in the Mania match, making it a 3-way. This is one of the least interesting ways to finally establish this match. We've all known this was the destination since Sky won the belt back at the start of March. So either book it much earlier, with Io demanding Ripley get added because it was Ripley who granted Io a title shot out of fairness, which gives Sky some much needed agency in this whole storyline. Or have the match announcement come from yet another huge exciting brawl, showing that the only way to settle this is to have them all in the ring at the same time. Instead, Pierce just made the announcement. Rhea and Belair pie-faced Io again, so Sky drop-kicked them all to stand tall. A very repetitive scenario to the 3 other in-ring promo segments they've already had. In keeping with the tradition of the Women's Intercontinental Championship history, that if you lose a #1 contenders match for it, you will be granted a shot anyway within the month, Bayley took on Lyra Valkyria in Raw's first match. While Lyra's IC title defenses against Dakota Kai or Ivy Nile have been good, they've also felt overly choreographed, which might have stopped the crowd getting fully emotionally invested. Bayley was totally different, putting on easily Lyra's best match of her reign so far, making this feel like an actual fight rather than an elongated nice series of moves. Bayley almost had it won with the Lion Tamer, but Lyra got a technical pin to just win again. Bayley slapped Lyra's handshake away afterwards, but then hugged her instead. She's a hugger. They're teaming together in the gauntlet on this Friday's SmackDown. Either Bayley turns on Lyra there to set up an IC title match for WrestleMania, or they win, go for the tag titles at Mania, and start a long-running breakup story that will probably pay off in late 2029. Did you know Netflix has comedy specials? Because here's comedian Bert Kreischer to promote his comedy special by ripping off his shirt with Otis. AJ Styles set up a match with Karrion Kross next week to hopefully finally shut him up, but it seemed as though that's exactly what Karrion wanted. In my favourite match and segment of the night, American Made and the legendary El Grande Americano then took on the LWO, reminding us that they're not just Rey Mysterio's cheerleaders. The LWO were fantastic here, doing multi-man running sequences, dive sequences, getting a very impressive Doomsday Machine reversed into a power slam, and American Made was standout too, with Julius Creed hitting a shooting star press. But the biggest praise must go to the crowd, who at one point did the dueling "Let's go Gable, no he's not." Ivy Nile slipped El Grande Americano a piece of metal, making use of good tariff-free American metal, not your country's exploitative pussy-ass metal, which he used to headbutt Ray off the apron and hit a flying headbutt to win, because, as we all know, wrestling logic dictates, the metal only hurts your opponent, not your head. Following last week's bloody angle where Gunther beat up Jimmy Uso, Jay interrupted Gunther's in-ring promo by not yeeting. For a change, he was serious, and didn't take up the next 10 minutes waving his arms up and down, which helpfully meant he actually had enough breath to cut a decent promo. He confessed he had to tell his mum he didn't protect Jimmy because he was afraid of Gunther. I thought he didn't protect Jimmy because he was cable tied to the ropes. But now he isn't afraid of him anymore. So he's going to say a prayer asking for forgiveness for the man he's about to become. And at WrestleMania, he's going to beat Gunther not just for the title, but for his family. Although presumably not Solo Sikoa. Did you know Netflix has more comedy specials? Because here's Tony Hinchcliffe to talk about his roast of WrestleMania and new Kill Tony series. Showing how much WWE cares about the New Day and the World Tag Team titles, most of the tag team title match of New Day versus the War Raiders was taken up with shots of the commentary desk where Hinchcliffe was a special guest commentator. The Raiders took most of the match but lost via DQ when Ivar used a chair that Xavier Woods had brought into the ring. The New Day beat them down afterwards, targeting their surgically repaired necks. This could be really good if it was treated more prominently. In lieu of any Cody Rhodes or John Cena this week, we got a video package on Cody's story. Hopefully we have both of them for the Go Home show next week. Don't prove the rumours Finn spoke about backstage beforehand, that he didn't have the killer instinct to win. Despite a fun Canadian destroyer in the 619 sequence, Penta beat him super easily. But then, to build the IC four-way, Bron Breakker then appeared on the ramp and hit one of the fastest spears humanly possible on Carlito. Because he was at the top of the ramp, he already had gravity working in his favour, and because he wasn't running round the ring, he could just go straight. It only made him faster. I'm surprised Carlito isn't dead. He then speared both Dom and Penta in the ring, but Finn attacked him from behind the stand tall. The 15-minute main event segment had Paul Heyman announce he will always be loyal to Roman Reigns, and he'll always also be loyal to CM Punk, making us all even more aware that those two things likely cannot coexist for much longer. Unless they form a super faction, or, in a new potential twist, he ditches both for Seth Rollins. Seth interrupted him and brought up that Roman abandoned Paul after Mania last year. That's when Solo and his goons beat him up. Then he pointed out how Punk walked out on everyone 10 years ago, including Heyman. Punk doesn't care about anyone but himself. The best thing for Paul to do would be to remove himself completely from the situation. And Seth would be more than happy to assist with that. It was a really good performance from Rollins, leaning more into the manipulative architect side of his character rather than the part that dresses like a twat and laughs a lot. He started shoving Paul around when CM Punk ran down for the save. They brawled, but Seth hit a stomp on him. He was about to stomp on Heyman as well, but just missed him, saying now Paul owes him a favour too. I'm not sure that's how favours work, but it was an intriguing point, adding in the idea that all three men are now in a Heyman on a Paul match. That's good, I said Paul rather than Pole. This week's Raw is 70%. Right now, though, we're also on the road to Worst All-Mania, where we're watching the worst WrestleMania matches of all time. Click the video on screen now if you dare to watch us endure Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler.